Hello and welcome back. Again, this is a lesson for 7th graders, so please make sure that you are 7th grade tuning back in. Also make sure that you have watched part 1 first before you are watching part 2, okay? In part 2 here, we are moving into looking at these shapes, so these composite figures, without using those grids, okay? So it's not just as easy as counting dots. This time I've actually got the shape and what I need to be working on with, okay? So for this example, example 2, it says the figure is made up of a semicircle and a triangle. Here is my direction, so underline it. Find the perimeter. So again, that means I am finding the measurement on the outside, okay? So I want all of this part, again, as best as I can to trace it here. It's a little hard. So we've got two different shapes. We've got a triangle and we have a semicircle. So for each part, I'm going to use these measurements to find my perimeter of this semicircle as well as the triangle. Now, they are both mashed together, and so what ends up happening is if you notice here, here's your dotted line, which is showing you a diameter. This part doesn't get included into the rest of the equation because this is on the inside of your shape. Remember, perimeter is only on the outside, so you do not need to use this inside measurement to actually count up to your perimeter. This measurement, though, will be important to use when figuring out this semicircle. Okay. So again, in this one, I had already kind of set up the work. I'm going to go through and explain how I did this work. Okay. So I had set up a section for my semicircle as well as my triangle. How am I going to measure both? Okay. So for my semicircle here, what I'm doing is I need to find my circumference. Sorry. Hey, sorry, I got kind of distracted here by Mr. Condit. But remember, you are looking for your semicircle, okay? So within your semicircle here, we need to find the circumference. Remember, our formula for circumference is pi times diameter. I'm doing this formula because I am being given a diameter, okay? When I find my semicircle, I only want half of this value, so that's why you're seeing that I'm dividing by 2. So what I did first is I'm finding the normal circumference. So I'm taking pi, 3.14, and I'm going to multiply it by your diameter. Your diameter is 10. Plug that into a calculator or realize that you're just moving the decimal place 1 over. You get 31.4. Again, I have to divide it by 2. And this gives me the 15.7 feet. Okay. Perimeter, again, is just the unit. Doesn't need to be squared. Okay. That's when you come to area. Now, this is the only part for my semicircle. Okay, so this is not my whole area. Right now, all I've done is taken this part of my shape. Okay, just this part. So the next part is taking that triangle part into play. Okay, the triangle part, all I really need to do then is add up the side with 8 feet and 6 feet to it. So 8 plus 6 is 14. When then I go back and I combine this part and this part together to find the perimeter of my entire shape. So when I add these both together, I end up getting 19.7 feet. Okay. So again, we don't need this measurement on the inside totaled up for my perimeter. It is useful though in finding some of these measurements that I need because I'm not given this part on the outside. Okay. Let's continue on. Again, at any point, if you want to pause the video, if we're going a little too fast, make sure you pause the video. Feel free to do that so that you can have a little more time to write down the notes. All right, so this next one, I'm going to try my best to kind of move myself around here. So your next one here, it says the running track is made up of a rectangle and 2 semicircles. I need to find the perimeter. So this time I'm given a rectangle and I'm given 2 semicircles. Okay, so here's my rectangle part. Oof, that was not a good outline, guys. You're like, Miss Wink, I thought you were going to be able to draw straight. Looks more like it's doing the worm. All right, so here's your rectangle, as best as I can. Here is 1 semicircle, and here's the other semicircle. Now remember, semicircles are half a circle. If you take 1/2 a circle and 1/2 a circle and you put them together, you end up getting one whole circle. So when I set this up, I'm going to actually find the circle measurement. I'm not going to worry about the semicircle because when you put one semicircle and one semicircle, two of them together, you're going to get an official circle. And then here is my measurements for my rectangle. Okay. So looking at my measurements here, it looks to be that I have a length measurement of 100 meters. Okay, and I've got a radius. Now this is my radius, okay, a radius of 32. So let's take a look at the circle first, and then we'll take a look at the rectangle. So here's my work for figuring out your circle. Okay, this time I'm going to use that formula for circumference, which is 2 pi r. Again, I'm using this one because I'm given a radius. If you wanted to convert this radius to a diameter and use just the pi times diameter, you are more than welcome to. Okay. Then I just end up with one big multiplication problem. I've got 2 times 3.14 times 32. When I multiply all those together, I get 200.96 meters. Again, I had mentioned that when you are doing things with pi, please just leave them the way they are, unless you're given directions that they want you to simplify them. All right. I'm going to move myself back over here. So then my rectangle. Figuring out my rectangle, okay. Again, I'm looking at a perimeter. So in this case, I only want the measurement that went around here, which we did with the circle. And we also got this measurement around down here, given the circle. Okay. For my rectangle here, I only need these sides of it. I don't need the other parts of it. So I've got a measurement of 100 here and 100 here. When I total them up, I get 200. And so when I total all this together, because remember I have to add in both the shapes, my circle and my rectangle, I end up getting 400.96 meters. Okay, so again, you're adding these two parts up. Okay, the rectangle, again, we only needed these length measurements. Because remember, when you actually find your circumference or your perimeter, usually you're just adding up the sides. I don't need these middle sides here because they're on the inside of this figure. I only want the things that are around the figure on the outside. Okay. Let's keep moving forward. Pause if you need to. All right, so this one isn't on your own, so you're given two different figures. This one says the figure is made up of a semicircle and a triangle. Again, find your perimeter. So this is kind of similar to the first one we saw. You got a semicircle and a triangle. This one is also similar to that other example here. So that was example 3. Okay, so this one's a lot like example 2. This one's a lot like example 3. Again, find your perimeter. You are given a square this time, not a rectangle, and 2 semicircles. Okay. Think about this one a little bit because it only gives you one measurement, but think about your square. What does this measurement mean based on what you know about squares? All right. Take a minute to pause the video, work out the problems. Once you have done that, feel free to continue on with the video. I will show up my answers here and explain out the thinking for these problems. Alrighty, welcome back. Here is some of my work for these answers. Again, I'm going to kind of move myself around a little bit here. Let's take a look at this first one, so number 3. Okay, and again, I will explain out the work here. So for this one, I didn't break it down as easily as I did for the other problems, thinking about your semicircle and then your triangle. This time I took a look at my semicircle first, though, using your pi times diameter formula. Okay. Plugging in those measurements. So again, if they don't tell you what to use for pi, use 3.14. I have a diameter of 26, so that's why I'm multiplying 3.14 and 26. Gives me a total of 81.64, and then I'm going to divide it by 2 because it's a semicircle. I do not need that entire measurement. Divide it by 2. Okay, so then I have 40.82. From there, I take that 40.82, which is this measurement that takes this whole semicircle part as best as I can here. And then I'm just adding in these other measurements, so this 24 and this 10. Okay, that's going to give me this perimeter of this entire shape. And I get an answer of 74.82 meters. All right, let me move myself again. Pause it if you need to. Let's take a look at example 4. So this one says the figure is made up of a square and 2 semicircles. The biggest thing I was trying to mention to you was that this 8 meters, think about what you know about squares. That means that every single side of this is going to be 8. Okay. So when I figure this one out, I'm looking at my circumference first, okay? Now it is 2 semicircles. 2 semicircles makes one whole circle. So I can just use my circumference equals pi times diameter because, again, I'm given a diameter measurement that goes from one side of the circle to the other. So I'm taking 3.14 and I'm multiplying it by 8. Once I have that, I get 25.12. And then just to figure out the rest of it, because this is part, okay, so I'm measuring out this. This is that circumference, as well as this, because I took a whole circle. The only parts left then that I need is this part and this part. So that's why I'm adding in 2 different 8s. Okay. And my solution then is 41.12 meters. Again, make sure those units are just that measurement. We don't need them squared until they are areas. Okay. Again, take a minute to pause the video if you want to double check this. And remember, if you are confused on any of this, feel free to reach out to me on Google Classroom. You can reach out to me here on YouTube. You can reach out to me through email as well. All right, we are going to skip this closure part. But here is, again, here's kind of your final page, your homework page. Okay. If you were reading your packet correctly for this week 2, that you should have gotten here on Monday, what you need to do is don't worry too much about this workbook. If you have it, feel free to use them. As of right now, because I can't monitor who has workbooks and who doesn't, as for right now, we are just not going to worry about those pages. If you want to use them as extra practice because you aren't sure or you feel like you need to challenge yourself a little bit more, go for it, okay? The homework you need to make sure that you get done is the 13.2. Again, that's going to be on Big Ideas Math. Okay. So if you are paying attention to that schedule then that I had created for you, this would be working on this here on Friday. Okay. So make sure to get this done this week. I will be checking to see who's got it done, who doesn't. I will be calling or emailing saying you don't have it done. Okay. Otherwise, again, reach out to me if you got questions. Comment here below if you need to. You can email. You can do, Google Classroom also works as well. And as a request from someone else, I was told that you need to smash the like button. Have a good day, guys. Bye.